Back in the late 1970s, if you wanted to play a spaceship physics game, there wasn't a lot of options for the average consumer. There may have been some PC simulators back then, but a personal home computer was a rarity. The closest thing we had was Lunar Lander at the arcades. Originally released in 1979 by Atari, Lunar Lander was a one-player game that simulated trying to land a manned spaceship on the moon. There are different landing locations on the surface of the moon with different point multipliers. The more difficult the landing location, the bigger the point multiplier. On screen there were indicators for score, time, fuel, altitude, and speed. Landing the craft successfully meant touching down with a very low speed before running out of fuel. Depending on how softly you landed, you got different messages. I was never able to land the ship well enough to get anything beyond hard landing. It was a one-way trip. After landing the ship, you get to play again, however, you only have the amount of fuel that you had left from your initial voyage. A loud beeping sound signaled when the fuel was running low and was normally loud enough so that other people in the arcade could hear it and watch the imminent crash. The control panel had the signature Atari cone buttons. You know these things. There were buttons for select, start, rotate left, and rotate right. To control the thrust of the spaceship, there was a dual lever that really gave the game an authentic feeling back in the day. The marquee for Lunar Lander showed the lander touching down on the moon with the sun blazing brightly behind it. The side art was a space station in the Scottish blue and green orange tones. The side wasn't very pretty in terms of color palette, but it did have a lot of details on the space station, and that ugly color palette was just kind of what they did back in the 70s and 80s for some reason. So, Lunar Lander, it's no Kerbal Space Program, but I'd like to think that Lunar Lander helped set down the roots for more modern space physics games of today.